It's a lonely walk these days to Nidal al-Awawi's shop first thing in the morning. The alleys in Hebron's old market area that once bustled with shoppers and vendors now keep the company of shadows, maybe the odd echo. Undeterred, Nidal sets up his stall in an area now described as a ghost town. A cigarette offers little comfort when you're the only shop open on the street and there are few buyers in sight. The old market area's population has dropped by more than 80% in around a decade. Only 3,500 people are left in the historical downtown. Residents blame the migration on the occupation.
We get harassed a lot. The army wouldn't let the ambulance pass the checkpoint when my wife went into labor. She gave birth while we were waiting and lost the baby. The soldiers also bit my youngest son and broke his leg in 2 places.
The Awawis have lived under occupation since Israel invaded the West Bank in 1967. The army stepped up restrictions after the Second Palestinian Uprising in 2000. Many restrictions remain today, although the Intifada has subsided.
This is the army post on top of the house next door. The soldiers sometimes prevent me from going up on the roof. Sometimes a patrol comes and seizes the room on the top floor of my house. They go through the stairs and front door as a passageway to get in and out, while they spend the night on my top floor.
Moments after Nidal complained of the army, a patrol showed up to question him. Can we come through? Because we were filming here with this guy upstairs. We had just finished our interview with Nidal when the army arrived. Soldiers quickly surrounded the house and began questioning Nidal until we interrupted. Is there some problem here for him?
No, there's no problem.
Shy of the cameras, the soldiers decided to move on. It's not difficult to see why residents who can are deciding to move on too. As for the army's side of the story, our request for an on-camera interview with the military was refused.
There has been a conscious effort of pushing the Palestinians out of the old city of Hebron. The Palestinians are being denied freedom of movement, access to homes, shops, places which are lawfully their own. But also, the fact that the Palestinians don't have access to certain areas anymore means that the settlers can move in and take over those places.
At the heart of the problem lies a struggle between settlers and Arabs for control of the old city. The area contains the final resting place of the Prophet Abraham and is special to both Jews and Muslims. Amnesty says the combination of occupation and settlements are securing Jewish control over the old city in defiance of international law. Hebron is the only place in the occupied territories where settlers live deep in Arab neighborhoods. The close proximity between settlers and Palestinians often leads to friction. That in turn has prompted army intervention to protect the Jewish communities. Regular patrols keep an eye on Palestinians. Checkpoints and roadblocks limit access to the once thriving market area. And then there are those who have properties close to Israeli settlements like Beit Hadassah. More than 350 Palestinian shops below Beit Hadassah have fallen victim to the creation of security zones. Welcome to life under Beit Hadassah, or to be more precise, as you can see, there really isn't much life left here. Most of the Arab shops have been closed down, as indicated by the black and red spots put here by the Israeli army. Life shut down here for the sake of the neighbors upstairs. Speak to those neighbors and you get a different take on who is being victimized in the neighborhood. Settler spokesman Noam Arnon takes a visiting Christian delegation to the spot where a baby was killed by Palestinian fire. He says Palestinian attacks have prompted the military restrictions.
This is something that we didn't want to happen, something that we didn't mean to happen, but it's because of the terrorist actions against us.
Settlers began moving to Hebron soon after Israel occupied the city in 1967. While the number of Palestinians in the old market area has been dropping, the settlers show off what they say is an expanding Jewish community. International law outlaws settlements in occupied territories.
This is the promised land for the Jewish people.
But the settlers regard their presence in the area as a fulfillment of a divine duty.
People look to do something good. Some of them save fish in Northern Ocean, some go to Africa to save sick people. And we believe that here we believe, an idea to bring justice and good and to bring again Jewish life to this holy city.
But Hebron has its unholy moments too, and UN documents say settlers themselves orchestrate some of them. Reports by the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs cite daily settler attacks on Palestinians. Palestinian school children seem to be a common target of violence. The UN says the attacks appear aimed at driving people out of town.
Palestinians are harassed in their homes because the settlers throw garbage, urine, both at their homes as well as when people pass on the streets. They attack the shops, they attack homes, and throw stones to the children who are on the way to school. Obviously, the primary target of the Israeli settlers is the local Palestinian population, but they will attack those who are there to act as monitors, and that's a deliberate attempt to get rid of witnesses.
I don't know why they thought we would be attacked, but a detective did tell me afterwards that I was targeted by settlers.
75-year-old Mary Baxter knows firsthand how dangerous just getting to school in Hebron can be.
Leave them alone!
The volunteer Human Shield escorts Palestinian schoolgirls, a trip that has sometimes ended in trouble.
On that day, settler girls from this Beit Hadassah settlement followed the girls from the Cordoba school all the way around to the top of the hill.
Amateur video shows Mary trying to ward off settler youths pursuing her and schoolgirls. A youth throws a punch and the 75-year-old falls to the ground.
Are you all right? Are you all right?
Settler adults and even soldiers in the crowd appear reluctant to restrain the Jewish youths. We asked Noam for permission to interview a settler family for their perspective on the violence, but we weren't allowed. Noam did address allegations of settler attacks himself, though.
Somehow our children copy the behavior of Arab children. We do not agree to this sort of behavior. We try to avoid it and to change it.
That is just not true. As you would have seen in that film, when I was knocked over, there were a whole crowd of adults watching. I yelled out to them to help, and they did absolutely nothing.
Since this interview, 2 other volunteer Human Shields who assisted our TV crew have complained of violent attacks. One suffered concussion, another received 7 stitches to her face. Victims complain the attackers are rarely arrested, let alone charged and convicted.
I don't think they charged anyone. I have heard of no case. I have not been asked to come back to witness, and the police know that I am here.
The Israeli army refused to talk on camera about allegations they're tolerating violence against Palestinians. But Yehuda Shaul leads a group of former soldiers who are speaking out. He did his military service in Hebron, an experience he says opened his eyes to the immorality of occupation. Today, he brings Israeli students back to the old market area he once patrolled. The tour winds past shop after shop and home after home closed by the army to create buffer zones around settlements. This used to be the Palestinian meat and vegetable market. Now it's a showcase of destruction. The settlers have long made claims to the land, but one night they decided not to wait for the courts to settle the claims. A night Yehuda was on duty.
And in the middle of the night, I hear drilling. I call the patrol. The patrol comes in to check what's going on. And what we discovered is that the settlers drilled the wall between both sides of the market in order to expand their living room.
So they're trying to extend their control over the market?
Yes.
Without Israeli court orders, without any legal
Of course. That was an illegal invasion. Back in 2001, it was announced as an illegal invasion.
So what did the patrol do? You called the patrol, what happened?
Nothing. You call the police, but the police was afraid to come here.
What did you do?
Nothing.
So you're not controlling them, the police aren't controlling them. Who polices, who provides proper authority here?
Look, we as IDF soldiers were briefed that we have no authorization to arrest an Israeli citizen to do something. For that, we have the Israeli police. But the Israeli police was afraid for them because the Israeli police, the settlers see the police as their enemy also. And they're attacking also the police. The police guys there also are being attacked. No man's land. This is a Wild West. You'll open a dictionary, look, Wild West, you'll see Hebron.
Keep browsing through that dictionary and you may come across the name Mufid Sharbati. He's been unable to return to his home since being evicted by a settler pogrom in 2002. Mufid seeks help from legal organizations in the city, armed with Israeli court rulings upholding his right to his home. But the papers don't even guarantee he'll be allowed to visit his house. They mean even less to his neighbors at Avraham Avenue settlement.
According to my information, this house is a part of the Jewish quarter. Maybe they can go to court and prove something, but this is the information I have.
We decided to accompany him as he tried to visit his house for the first time in months. It took an hour of negotiating with the army and then the police. But finally the all-clear was given and Mufid and I headed down the alley. We're now approaching the Sharbati home here on my left. It's the first time that Mufid Sharbati is coming back to see his home since May 2005. Inside was more like a war zone than a family home. When Mufid was last allowed into his house in 2005, he had repaired some of the damage from the first settler attack. But there was little sign of repairs now.
The house has been destroyed. There was a room in the middle of here. Now it's gone. They've also finished off the room here that was half destroyed before. They've destroyed everything. This is the real face of settlements.
Noam denies such charges. He says the settler community is expanding normally and not through land grabs.
It's ridiculous, totally ridiculous. I belong to those people opposing any sort of expelling people. At the same time, I would expect the leaders of the Arab community here and elsewhere to declare that they are against expelling Jews. I didn't hear something like this.
The Sharbati house has become symbolic of the general state of Palestinians, a household fighting for its existence against neighbors backed by a powerful army.
And I think the Arab community here could live peacefully once they forget this idea of Palestinian identity. The whole concept of Palestinian identity was created in order, one thing, to destroy the Jewish state.
But that may be a price too high. Stateless and homeless, Mufid says his identity is all he has left.